right, so first thing that I've learned after one season of growing grapes, right now it's fall time, I planted them early spring, so I'm counting it as a full season, is that grapes are voracious growers. They grow quickly and they will sprawl. And so as you can see here, I grew this from about a 2-foot tall plant from the nursery, and it has grown all the way across my trellis, which is super cool. So, you know, it's very great to plant in terms of instant gratification, because if you're wanting something that's really pretty, that does something like this, that you're able to trellis or put on a vine, grapes are a great option. However, it's very important to understand that without pruning a lot, these things will grow and grow and grow. In my experience, I'm here in the Midwest, it's grown probably 12 to 20 feet. And you can see this is 1 year's growth, and I have pruned this several times already. So the first thing I learned after one season of growing grapes is that they are voracious growers and they will grow very quickly. All right, so the second thing I've learned after one season of growing grapes is that you really have to research and be attuned to pruning the grape throughout the season. So if you are growing grapes for production, most likely you're gonna be doing something on a trellis like you can see here. This is a super simple trellis with some T-posts and some wire, some baling wire that I got from the tractor supply store many years ago. But you're gonna wanna train this to grow along the trellis, because these first year vines next summer will produce the actual grapes. And so what I've done is I've trained this pretty well here to wrap around my trellis so that I can get access to those grapes, and those grapes can have access to the sun and a lot of air, because what you don't want is to have a stuffy environment that is very shaded, that will induce things like disease and mold. So you need to be accustomed to pruning. Another thing to know about grapes is that this year's shoots will produce next year's grapes. So after 2 years, you need to prune back your old, give room for the new growth so that the following year it can produce more grapes. And it's an ever-evolving cycle. So the second thing I've learned after having grapevines is that you have to be attuned to how to prune them. All right, so the third lesson I've learned after having grapevines in my garden for a season is that there are tons of varieties of grapevines. And I did not know this. I had in the springtime just a weird idea, a random idea to plant grapevines. And this is kind of how my mind works with gardening and other projects. I get the idea, I executed on it pretty quickly, and then I kind of learn as I go. So one thing I wish that I spent more time doing is researching the different types of grapevines, the different types of grapes there are. These happen to be tabletop grapes, which is awesome, right? They're gonna produce for years and years and years, grapes that me and my family can enjoy for a snack, dinner, something like that. But I want to get into other varieties, specifically wine varieties that you can make into wine. I did not plant that, and so what I'll do next season is explore more varieties, hopefully plant more grapes so that I can explore some different use cases for those grapes once they grow and start producing. All right, so another lesson that I learned, and I actually chose right when I went and bought these grapevines, is to buy established vines, buy an established plant if you can afford it. So buying a more established grapevine will cost you a little bit of money. You might spend $50, $60 per plant, but it's a good investment. Number one, grapevines, if healthy, if treated well, if pruned well, will last many years. But the benefit of getting an established plant is that you don't have to wait 2, 3, 4 years to actually get fruit on your vines. Like I mentioned earlier, this year's growth is going to produce next year's crop. And if you get a plant that's very early, or you're planting from seed, it's gonna take a few years for that to establish, to start bearing fruit. So what I did, I made the investment, I bought the plants from a local nursery, from local plants, I think that's important, and I'm able to hopefully get grapes the very next year. So buy an established plant, invest the money if you can, it'll be a good long-term investment for you, so you don't have to wait 3, 4 years in order to get your first harvest. All right, and the last lesson that I learned about growing grapes, lesson number 5, is that grapes are really great conversation starters with people that you're talking to about your garden. So not many people, for whatever reason, grow grapes or grow grapes successfully, at least here in the Midwest. And so I have 2 grapevines, one that's kind of more ornamental that you can see here on the trellis, one that I'm going to focus a little bit more on production on the smaller trellis there that you saw in previous clip. But the cool thing about grapes is that they look really cool. Everybody loves grapes, everybody loves fruit, and they're native to the area, native to more areas, even more areas than you might think. And so if you want a great conversation starter, if you want something that's super pretty, if you want something that, you know, is gonna have people say, hey, take me out to the garden and show me what you have, grapes are a fantastic option. And the last thing that I'll mention is I planted tabletop grapes, but I have tons of plans to actually create this into somewhat of a vineyard. I really want to explore wine grapes and winemaking here on this channel. So if that interests you whatsoever, subscribe, like this video, follow me along on my journey. I have a history, about 5-6 years of gardening, but this area that you've seen here is all brand new that I built this spring, and I have tons more plans here in my small suburban lot to turn this into a big producing lot for things like grapes and native plants and fruits and vegetables. So subscribe, like the video, and we will talk very soon.